So good evening, everyone. Hello. Thank you for being here. As always, it's heartwarming to see everyone. So tonight, as promised, I'm going to talk about the three minds that Dogen talks about in the last couple pages of the Tenzo Kyokun, Instructions for the Chief Cook. So the word that we so often translate as mind is the Chinese character for it is Shin. And we've talked about this before. So many of you will know that in a Dharma context, Shin, maybe in any context in China, it doesn't mean the mind that thinks or calculates or analyzes, that's sort of ordinary everyday thinking mind. It's the heart mind, the mind that includes the heart, not just the thinking mind, but the feeling mind. And yet it's so much bigger than even that. It includes the body. It includes relationship. We are undivided, and so it includes everything. Now, that could make it a little bit meaningless on the one hand, but on the other hand, maybe it just makes it bigger. Uchiyama Roshi says, and this is in How to Cook Your Life, Shin or mind is, quote, that mind which extends throughout all phenomena, and all phenomena are inseparable from that mind. My personal life experience is at the same time the world of reality. Conversely, the world of reality constitutes my mind. Hence, the use of the word mind in this case goes far beyond having only a mental or psychological meaning. In our age, perhaps pure life would be a clearer expression than mind. Pure life. So in the final two pages of Tenzo Kyokun, Dogen explains these three minds, as I've said. These three minds that he thinks are important for our practice. And they are joyful mind, parental mind, and magnanimous mind. And even though he talks about joyful mind first, I'm going to start with parental mind. The Japanese word for parental mind is roshin. There's that shin again. And the glossary at the back of How to Cook Your Life says that roshin refers to having the mind of a parent or a true adult. True adult. It reminds me of Reverend Master Vivian saying that we are spiritual adults. This word Roshin is also translated as loving mind. And I personally think of it as the mind of true love, capitalizing those words, or unconditional love. And I'll say more about that as we go along. Dogen writes in Tenzo Kyokun, Roshin, or parental mind, is the mind or attitude of a parent. In the same way that a parent cares for an only child, keep the three treasures in your mind. A parent, irrespective of poverty or difficult circumstances, loves and raises a child with care. How deep is love like this? A parent protects the child from the cold and shades them from the hot sun with no concern for his or her own welfare. Sorry, I'm laughing. I'm thinking, Dogen never had children. He makes this sound too easy. Neither did I, of course. Anyway, Dogen continues, this is the ultimate in being a parent. no concern for your own personal welfare. In the same manner, when you handle water, rice, or anything else, you must have the affectionate and caring concern of a parent raising a child. So to love all things as if they were your child. Some of us, I guess I tend to think of this mind in terms of my parents raising me, and I guess that's partly because I didn't have children. And for some of us, this notion of parental mind, loving mind, might be difficult because we had difficult parents, or at least we think they were difficult. Maybe our parents abused us psychologically, physically, or sexually. Maybe they yelled a lot or fought a lot. Maybe they were too strict, at least to our minds. Maybe we had clashing personalities, we just didn't get along. Or maybe we had different values. Maybe we didn't like them. All these things are possible. If you've had a good relationship with your parents, a close relationship, if you are fond of them, then you're very fortunate. But I think for those who have children, we can think of this mind in terms of how we relate to our children. And I see this over and over again, the incredible love that parents have for their children, even when the children aren't very cooperative. The great tenderness we feel for them, or the delight we take in them, or how we cherish them, or how readily we might forgive them. How much we want them to succeed or be happy or not to suffer. Sometimes this love is hard to express, like tough love. Sometimes we have to turn an addicted child, a grown child an addicted child who's grown, or a grown child who refuses to work, out of our house so that we're not enabling them. I think that's got to be pretty tough to do, and yet it's quite an act of love. At the very least, we have discovered the moment that they're born, maybe even sooner, that our life is no longer about ourselves, no longer our own. Each moment of the day can be a small sacrifice so that our child has what it needs and is nurtured and cared for. We may be willing to sacrifice everything for them, as Dogen suggests, and we may receive little appreciation in return, depending. Parental love, the loving mind, is unconditional. And Dogen is asking us to offer it to all beings and to all things. It's not gooey and sweet. It's not that kind of love. It's actually firm and always unassailable. And it's bright. We offer it to rice, or maybe in our case to potatoes, to our spouse and child, both, all. We offer it to the grocery store clerk, to the person who has done something to offend us, for whom we carry a grudge we've never put down. We offer it even to them. Can we extend it to our parents, those difficult parents I just described? And I'm hoping not all our parents are that difficult. Hardest of all, though they are the most distant and abstract, maybe to extend this kind of love to the leaders of our country, as if they were our own eyeballs. This love means not to reject. It means to see Buddha in all, and not just in people. No one has to earn it, and no one has to treat us in a certain way to receive it. This is our practice, our challenge, ongoing opening of the heart and opening of the hands, and to be mindful of extending this love 24/7, maybe 16/7. Maybe not when we're sleeping, I don't know. So that's parental mind. Joyful mind, which I think can arise out of parental mind. The Japanese word for joyful mind is kishin. So again, the word shin. And Dogen says, a joyful spirit is one of gratefulness and buoyancy. Gratefulness and buoyancy. To me, it's interesting to find once again this connection between joy and gratitude. Gratitude arises out of joy, and joy arises out of gratitude, at least in my experience. But think of it, when you're grateful for something, there's an accompanying feeling of joy. Dogen encourages us in the Tenzo Kyōkun to be grateful for being born human, which is the best way to awaken Bodhi spirit, Bodhi mind, bodhicitta. And also for being able to feed the three treasures. Be grateful for being able to feed the three treasures. And if you're cooking for just your family, if you're cooking for your family or for just yourself, you're still feeding the three treasures, because we're all part of the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Dogen, thinks that we should be grateful to be able to feed the three treasures because it's the most precious of all things. That's what he says. He suggests we consider the worst conditions that we could have been born into. That we are not born into those conditions is reason for joy. And none of us have been born into the worst conditions we could have been born into. He says, my sincerest desire is that you exhaust all the strength and effort of all your lives, past, present, and future, and every moment of every day into your practice through the work of Tenzo, which also gains you great merit, by the way, so that you form a strong connection with the Buddha Dharma. To view all things with this attitude is called joyful mind. Okay, every moment of every day as practice through the work of Tenzo. To view all things with this attitude is called joyful mind. So we can have a joyful mind because of how much we appreciate this world, or because all our friends and relatives are healthy, if they are, or because we have a good life. But Dogen's emphasizing that joy comes from practice, from the Buddha Dharma. This is a joy that isn't dependent on conditions. And I'll say that again. This is a joy that's not dependent on conditions. It doesn't matter what kind of life we've been born into. Can we be joyful when something we don't like is happening? That could be a challenge, but I think this kind of joy is different from what we normally think of as joy. Perhaps it's more like a quiet thread of stillness that runs through our lives, giving them a hint of buoyancy, this word that Dogen used earlier, giving them a hint of buoyancy, a hint of some kind of scintillating brightness. Uchiyama Roshi suggests that joyful mind arises out of parental mind. Joy is always present when we can love whatever we encounter unconditionally. It seems to be a mind that's not separate from so much, from so many things, like generosity. It's not separate from generosity. When we give, we're joyful. It's not separate from gratitude or love or open hands and heart. It can be cultivated just as we cultivate generosity, etc. So we don't need to be victims of lack of joy. The magnanimous mind. Dogen says, magnanimous mind is like a mountain, stable and impartial. Exemplifying the ocean, it is tolerant and views everything from the broadest perspective. Magnanimous mind is like a mountain, stable and impartial. Exemplifying the ocean, it is tolerant and views everything from the broadest perspective. I think we could also call this the mind of equanimity. Stable like a mountain, it's not moved by love and hate, desire and aversion, things going our way or things not going our way. Like an ocean, all rivers, that is, all beings and things, flow into it, and it absorbs them all. This magnanimous mind can hold them all. The characters that are translated as magnanimous mind are Daishin. This is the same as Reverend Master Daishin's name. Shin, of course, is heart mind again, and Dai means great. So we could call this great heart mind. Sometimes in Zen, we call it big mind with capital letters. I think of it as a mind like sky. It can hold everything unperturbed by nothing, without being moved. Stable and tolerant, it's an open mind. Maybe there's no suggestion that this word open comes up a lot tonight. Dogen's suggestion is to let go of thinking that one thing is better than another, or one condition or one person is better than another. This enables, he says, us to have contact with Buddha, the reality of life. This enables us to have contact with Buddha, this stable big mind. In this way, he says, our true form manifests itself naturally. Dai or big or great also means to let go of all comparisons, all dualities. To, as Dogen says, I'm sorry, Dogen doesn't say this. Uchiyama Roshi says it, to no longer engage in or pay heed to discriminative thought. So let go of all comparisons and all dualities. Thus, the magnanimous mind is stable, impartial, and big. It's also generous, and Daishin is sometimes translated as generous mind. And in fact, the dictionary defines magnanimous as very generous or forgiving. And I find this really interesting. Very generous or forgiving, this juxtaposition of generosity and forgiveness. The magnanimous mind is a merciful mind. So I think that, once again, we're being pointed towards what it means to just sit, to do our meditation practice, to not get all excited or agitated by our thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations, etc., whatever is coming up in meditation. But to have a mind, a perspective that's unperturbed by it all, not uncaring, but unperturbed. This doesn't mean that we don't feel what's arising or that we become bland. Instead, whatever we meet is our life. As Uchiyama Roshi says over and over again, whatever we meet is our life. We have a mind that's large enough to welcome it all quietly. However, Uchiyo Roshi says, in our daily lives, we have to discriminate. But what we must not forget is the fundamental attitude grounding this discrimination. Again, everything we encounter is our life. This is the attitude of big mind. So our task is to meet adversity with equanimity. And the Tenzo Kyokun shows us how to do this through careful handling of food and utensils. This is not about somehow expanding our minds to be as large as space itself, though if we can, that's nice. It's about paying full attention to what is right in front of us. And Dogen emphasizes that over and over again, paying full attention to what is right in front of us right now. Dogen quotes the Chinese rules of purity. He says, you should think only about how to best serve the community. Have no fear of poverty. Okay, so we're not all monks, but we have a community, we have a family, we have other people around us. So think only about how to best serve the community, having no fear of poverty. As long as your mind is not limited, you will naturally receive unlimited fortune. That's quite a promise. So this mind that is not limited is magnanimous mind. Actually, the three minds are all one mind. And that is the mind of love, the mind that is not limited. So thank you all for listening.